Metal Slug.
Ahem. Shall we get to it? AoS is good, actually. No one will play it at my local game store since it killed Fantasy. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, you know, I like Age of Sigmar. Other people don't like Age of Sigmar. Some people have a good reason for it. Some people don't have a good reason for it. Some people are still mad after, whatever, 10 years or something. I do have to point out that Age of Sigmar itself and the players of Age of Sigmar both had nothing to do with the death of Fantasy. So this is not true. This is fake news. Fantasy died because no one was buying it. It was financially unsuccessful for, geez, I don't know, 5 years before it got canned. More than 5 years. For a very long time, it was essentially in the red. The reasons for that are 200 plus model armies for every army. They were just too expensive. You had to buy monstrously huge armies. Crazy expensive. It was managed terribly. I was talking to SG Arcade before. Bretonia wasn't updated for like, what, 3 entire editions? They didn't get a new book, right? I mean, what people could say is if Fantasy got the support that AoS did, it would have been successful, but I don't know, maybe. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, Age of Sigmar did not kill Fantasy. It died a long time before it was killed, like you hear about in the animes. Sorry. I'm not dancing on a corpse. It's just like you're misdirecting your anger. Be mad at Games Workshop, not at me. Also, Age of Sigmar is fun and good. Sorry. Ahem. Someone at your local game store said they refuse to play Sigmar because it's Fantasy 40k. Damn, that's crazy, because I refuse to play 40k because it's space fantasy, right? I don't know. You can have whatever weird reasons for not liking something or not playing it. I'm not here to argue someone into playing or liking my game. I don't like board games. There are tons of objectively really good board games. I'm just not interested in them. I'm not trying to get argued into liking board games. I'm just not interested, and that's that. If you're just not interested in Age of Sigmar, fine, you know? We got a lot of games for a lot of people all over the world. Just pick the ones you like. You know? You also find it hilarious when people cry about Warhammer Fantasy Battle. They can still play it with the older rules. I mean, they can, but I find that to be cold comfort in general, way of the brush. You can still play Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but there is a quality to a game that is officially supported currently. And in general, when a game is no longer officially supported currently, it's hard to find players for it. It's hard to keep the ball rolling alone with no support, you know? So I don't think that's like a gotcha. It's like a it's like a way to make people feel worse, maybe. It's really hard to bring in new players, yeah, because you go into a Games Workshop store or a local game store, and what's everyone playing? Probably the newest thing. No matter what game you're talking about, just about. Ooh, I'm gonna play Dungeons & Dragons at my local store. What kind of Dungeons & Dragons are they playing? Probably 5th edition? You know, here and there, all over the... Oh, we're doing You got a bunch of old guys, a bunch of dads sitting around a table playing 3.5 Savage Species, right, or something. And you got even older, just a bunch of skeletons sitting around a kitchen table playing Palladium Rifts Ultimate Edition, or Shadowrun back when FASA used to own it, 2nd edition or something like that. But, it's tough to get into it when it's not officially supported any longer. Dust Piles playing Chainmail, yeah. So I get that. Sometimes you have something like what happened with Classic WoW, where, me and a bunch of other old people didn't like retail WoW. We're like, this game sucks now. We liked it back when it was vanilla or whatever, and so played on a bunch of private servers. Private servers in Russia, private servers in France, private servers above a bowling alley and below a noodle place in South Korea. Played on Nostalrius, and there became so many of us that the company is actually like, oh shit, we could make some money doing this. And we would have to spend almost nothing. And then they did, So that's cool, right? It's kind of what happened to the old world a little bit. Although really, I don't think it was like a whole bunch of people playing Old World. I think it was a whole bunch of people playing Total War on Steam, but still. Some Norwegian dude, thanks for the tier 3. I appreciate it. Perfect streak, 38 months. That's a big tier, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate. All they had to do was blow the dust off the aluminum casts, yeah. Finding someone that loves the same long-gone edition of a game is extremely difficult. Yeah, that's true, MHS. Which long-gone edition is the one that you liked? 4th edition, 6th edition, 7, I don't know. It's just harder to find players for, So I get that. That sucks. Everyone doesn't have to like the game I like. I'm not trying to argue anyone into liking the game I liked. But It Killed Fantasy is a brain-dead, ahistorical, fake news take. Cope and seethe. Good luck on TOW, but the It Killed Fantasy people, not good luck. Bad luck to you. You are wrong. There are not enough things that deal mortal wounds. Good meme. Meme out of 10. I mean, it's the best type of damage you can be doing if what you care is about the damage quality. It's not very adept at killing millions and millions of low armor idiots. Zombies and stuff, right? But those aren't exactly armies that put out 30 blocks over and over of guys. Is more of a 1st edition thing. If you feel like you want mortal wounds in your army and you don't have any, it probably sucks to watch everybody else be getting them. But still, nice meme. There's enough people playing 9th Age Warhammer Fantasy Battle, other rank and flanks that go for 3D prints that GW wants to capture it. I think it's the other rank and flanks, and I think to me, it's kind of like 3 things. I'm not a business, but I guess I could, opine. Maybe a little bit of market share, maybe a little bit of lost leader kind of thing, where we don't have a rank and flank game. We might as well have a rank and flank game. We might as well have a type of game, just so we exist in that space, And there aren't a terribly large amount of fantasy players currently, but there's enough collective rank and flank in total gamers that they might as well buy stuff from Games Workshop every once in a while. Plus, Total War did great on Steam. Maybe people want that world. So, I mean, alright. And then finally, we shit-canned everything that Forge World was doing for fantasy anyway. And so what's Forge World gonna do? Sit around with a factory only churning out 30K. We got a big factory. It could be doing something else. We might as well do this, right? And from that perspective, sure, you know. Are there enough people playing Ninth Age? What, to support like a mainline Games Workshop game? God, no. But Rank and Flank in its entirety, and everybody in the whole world who remembers or who remembers fantasy from their childhood, maybe, plus TOW players, plus this and that, sure. Number can only go up. Anyway, good meme. Marathi and Teclis should not have made it into AoS. AoS should have introduced more new gods instead of crunching on old world ones. Oh, look who is miraculously back. Yeah, so do we need any harder evidence that they did not plan the old world? That they did not plan ahead on that one? For a while there, they were kind of, hey, remember this guy from Fantasy? Remember that guy from Fantasy? Remember this thing? Remember this character from Fantasy? You guys love that guy, right? He's got a big mohawk. Throw him in the AoS. We're fishing for nostalgia. And then 2 editions in, they're like, damn, the old world's popping off and Forge World isn't doing anything else. Maybe we do an old world thing. And so now we're kind of in a weird spot. I thought this hot take was going to be about avatars and the gods would be too powerful on the table, but it took a left turn. Ahem. Think they'll ever make a Sigmar model? No. No, I don't. Neither of them were gods in fantasy? Yeah, do you think this implied that they were? Let me read it again. They always should have introduced more new gods instead of crunching on old world ones. Oh, ones. Yeah, I see. Lucas Marax is back. Yeah, they weren't gods in the old one. They were just like popular characters, I guess. And now they're gods in this one. Some others. Anti-elf rhetoric. Was linking AoS to Warhammer Fantasy Battle lore a net positive or negative? I don't know. At the time, probably positive. It's better to make something that is familiar than new. Customers hate new. They love familiar. And they reward you appropriately for that, in general, as a rule. Customers punish you for new and reward you for familiar. So, it was probably a good thing. From my perspective as guy who did not play Warhammer Fantasy, because I never did, they'd be like, hey, Marathi's back. And I'm like, who? Teclis is coming back. Who? Like, they missed me with all the references, because I didn't care about Warhammer Fantasy, so I didn't know anything about it. And so I just judged them based on their AoS lore. I'm like, oh, okay, Marathi, cool. Teclis, eh. You know, and so on and so forth. Overall, probably a positive thing, I guess. I think you can do that too much. You know? You can probably do it too much. Whiskey Lima, tying into the old world kind of bit on both sides. The new players like you were like who, and the old players just got mad. I mean, the people who were already mad were probably just not going to buy your stuff anyway. Maybe they were, I don't know. A lot of people got over it eventually. Like, it took an addition, but a lot of people got over it. It's a common story I hear. I hated AoS, I was mad. But then everyone kept playing it, and the second edition came out, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll give the game a chance. It actually looks good. And then, like, it is. So, you know, I think that was the story for a lot of people. Some people never got over it. But I don't know, who cares? What do you have against the lore of Teclis? Nothing, it's a bit. Now, you're always a bit pleased when certain characters survive the doom. Yeah, eventually people got over it, but during that getting over it period, yeah, that sucked. As did the game right away when it came out. No rewriting history here. AoS 1 on release was trash. It's the kind of game that I would be insulted by without any prior history. I was like, I read the original 4-page rules and the no points in your entire game, and I'm like, damn, I have nothing to do with this, but I'm still insulted. So, they didn't do themselves any favors, that's for fucking sure. But then it got good, so who cares? Next. The game will never reach its potential because GW are pros at squandering golden opportunities. If you're just imagining a potential in your head in make-believe land, sure. But you know what else GW are pros at doing? Becoming a billion-dollar company after 50 years of people saying they're going to die. That decision they made was so bad, no one's gonna buy that shit. That thing is so expensive. They're so stupid. They're making the worst business decisions you could ever make. Okay. Don't they make more money for the country than like fishing or some shit? I don't know, man. Nice YouTube thumbnail with the red down arrow and the angry face. GW dying question mark? Every year. I mean, I'm not downplaying the stupidity at face value of a lot of their decisions, and yet it seems like the most important ones, the ones where you die as a company if you make, they have so far avoided. So. Ahem. Also, you just lost. Every boomer in the chat is mad now. Look at the stock prices. That's an old meme. Damn. Got it. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what the potential for AoS could be. Honestly, the best Age of Sigmar could possibly do is pretty close to what it's doing right now in reality. Every once in a while, it moves around depending on what game released when, or what edition released when, or whatever, but it's Age of Sigmar is the second most selling war game in the world. That's pretty good. Sometimes it's number 5, sometimes it's number 3. I don't know how often it's number 2, but it gets there. That's about as good as you could possibly expect. Because nothing will ever even approach 40k. It just won't. Right? 40k is the king, and it always will be, by probably a factor of 10. But being a comfortable second place every once in a while, depending on the time of year, that's a... I mean, can you imagine when they killed fantasy, and they showed you 4 pages of rules written by someone's dog, and told you not even to use points and just make G.I. Joe gunshot noises with your mouth, layer your bases on top of each other. They showed you the first edition Stormcast Liberator. Blue and gold. Brilliant, right? Can you imagine looking at that and then, hey, you know, in the future they'll have a 3rd edition and they'll be the 2nd most popular wargame. That's crazy. In a sense, right? So I don't know. It's doing pretty well. Also, yeah, SD Arcade. The game it replaced, which was Warhammer Fantasy Battle, was doing so bad, right? So I don't know. It seems like a great decision in retrospect. Fantasy was like in the red for them for a decade, and AoS is the 2nd best-selling game. I don't know. Seems like a good upgrade to me. And now TOW is coming out, and those people can enjoy that one too, right? I don't know. Seems like a win-win. Do you play video games like Call of Duty? No, I like good games. AoS really is a success story by sheer raw determination. Yeah, and improvement. They worked at it. I've heard the meme of Paint outselling Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I don't know if it's true. But I did hear that meme. All this AoS hype is making me want to break out some Soulblight Gravelords models to work on. Sure. Speaking of good games, is there Waifu Weekend or something else ahead? Actually, there is. Persona 3 remake is coming out pretty soon. Now, there's a good game. Am I right? Requiring high skill. Instant twitch reflexes. It wasn't just a meme, it was true. Old GW Trainer told you the rough numbers on Fantasy 40k before Sigmar. It's not actually a meme. They confirmed it on Peachy's podcast. Okay. Yeesh. Ahem. Anyway, it's doing good. Can it do better? Yeah. Can it improve a bunch of stuff? Yeah. But don't let perfect be the enemy of good, alright? AoS needs to cull multiple borderline useless weapon options. And just have one weapon option per war scroll and then just balance the one. And while they're at it, cull all the repetitive war scrolls that have the same role. Okay. I like, even if the choice is a foregone conclusion, I like having a choice. Swords or spears. You know? Big hammer or hammer and shield. Dual wielding versus, you know, iron fist and thing. I think having one choice to make on a war scroll is fine. I also think having one choice to write the rules for and balance isn't exactly a tall order. Because if they got rid of the weapon choices in the rules, they would probably get rid of the weapon choices moving forward for new kits. And I'd rather have more bits available than less. To me, this is just like a rules writing problem. While they're at it, cut all the repetitive war scrolls that have the same role. Just write better battle tomes. Just write better rules. That's it. It's so simple. Because I'm not saying how to do it or in what ways. But that's the answer. Don't give up. Just write better. Chaos Warriors are too spiky. Choices are fine. Let's talk about removing the number of profiles that some scrolls have. Big heroes don't need 4 profiles when one of them is a waste of time. 4s and 4s, no rend 1. Yeah. Some of the fanfiction ass attacks on a war scroll that just waste time. I could go for a little streamlining in the name of just being easier and less annoying to resolve. Sure. Anyway, I don't think you need to get rid of this. This strikes me as one of those... There's too many artifacts in my book. You have 18 artifacts and only one is good. Get rid of the ones that don't work. And then the next battle tome that comes out has 3 artifacts. And still only one is good. So the real answer isn't give me less options. The real answer is do good work when you're writing the options, instead of doing bad work. You know? Dr. Dark Match redeemed meme ad. Hey. Please enjoy a word from our sponsors, alright? Just call 1-800-420-6900 or steer your web browser to the sgrk.com superhighway. Holy fuck these deals. If you go where this stream advises to shop, the cream rises to the top. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Alright, we're back. Hope you enjoyed the commercial break. For SG Arcade, as well as some ice cream from 1983. Alright. The phone lines are open, folks. We are standing by, yeah. At the time I made that meme, I didn't try the number. It's a phone line. So, maybe just go to the website. If Scragrat didn't have attacks, he wouldn't have the funny story of killing a Mega Gargant with him at a GT. I don't know. Maybe you would have anyway. Just get one dice roll luckier and then you get that story anyway, right? I don't know. Also, how often does Scragrat really physically attack? He probably doesn't actually attack enough for it to really be a time saver if you get rid of one of his attacks anyway, right? I bet they're more thinking about some combat hero or something like that. Yeah, I remember when we called the number live. It was a good clip. I was here. Flavor of the horse stomping Archaon's head into the dirt is worth it, true. Wizard bonks are kind of scary though. They're always on some shit like Ren 2 D3 or whatever, Ren 1 D3. Sure, they hit on 4s usually, but the wizard bonk, if you actually end up hitting with that thing, it's, I don't know, surprise heat sometimes, every once in a while with the wizard bonk. We have the Nerd Rage Ghoul King to worry about these days now, yeah. When the wizard bonk gets through, though. Blades of Corn do not look like Warhammer models. Huh. In what manner? How so? Maybe my opinion is tainted because just about all the Blades of Corn models have been in Warhammer since before there was Age of Sigmar, you know? Almost all of them are just from Warhammer Fantasy, and that was a Warhammer game as well. I don't know. The Blood Knights maybe look kind of goofy in a certain way, but I don't know. I think I disagree. I guess this is a hot take. A lot of them are kind of dated. By comparison, Stormcast have had their design rebooted twice since Korn got models. Yeah, but you can't talk about Stormcast like that. Right? Because Skaven have a model that was designed in 1993 when Richard Garfield was in college inventing Magic the Gathering. And so it's like, yeah, Stormcast get a bunch of new models all the time because they're the poster child faction for the whole game. But on average, Blades of Corn's models are like, what? About as recent as just about anybody else's, unless you're folding in all the brand new AoS factions that only came out 2 years ago or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, this is indeed a hot take. I essentially disagree. Good take, I guess. Ahem. Are you telling me that guys with breastplate tank tops, 43-inch pythons, and punch shield knives and double axes to pointy helmets, heavy helmets with their god's logo on it, giant boots aren't Warhammer? I don't know. Covered in skulls and spikes? I don't know. The skulls. Too spiky. Ahem. AoS 2, with most books being 1.0, was a better game state than what we have currently. Ooh, okay. I miss stacking command points. True. And foot heroes having unique abilities felt better than generic ones twice with your mandatory guy who can issue 2 commands. True. Oh, Jesus. You know, it was bound to happen. Eventually, you will be getting those people who are like, last edition was better than current edition. This is an inevitability when you get enough editions. It's maybe a little surprising to see it so early, though. Stacking command points was Johnny Magic shit. It was awesome, and the game is more boring, but more fair, and a higher quality of life without it. Foot heroes having unique abilities felt better than generic ones. Yes. That's just simply true. I liked unique abilities for foot heroes. That shit was cool. Can we talk about realm artifacts? When list building was fun? Anyway, yeah. I'm not gonna say that 2nd edition was better than 3rd, but I will say that 2nd did some things more fun than 3rd. And I would say that these are two of those things. What do you mean by unique effects versus generic ones? So it used to be the case that foot heroes had command abilities. They were just custom for your army or whatever. Some of them were similar, sure, but you had like just a bunch of command abilities to choose from. And now everybody just issues the ones that everybody has, for the most part. Did Heywoah write this take? No, I would have had a little more self-awareness, and I would have definitely brought up realm artifacts as well. The game is more balanced now and easier to play now, more streamlined, and has a lot more quality of life. It's also, when I say more balanced, I mean way more balanced. But yeah, a lot of the shit in AoS 2 was kind of like combo player funhouse land, in a way that was not balanced, but was definitely fun. Arguably more fun. So, okay. Maybe it is a hot take, but in essence, I agree. I kind of want some of those rough edges back. I guess is the thing. Nice hot take. Battle tactics ruin the game. I mean, that's a bit strong, but I don't like them. They skew list building far too much and make the game more like Age of Battle Tactics. Game would be so much better without them. This person's just pretending to be me. I don't know if they really believe this. Maybe they do. In general, I agree. I don't like secondaries. I don't like battle tactics. I've talked at length about battle tactics several times, and I've also talked at length about battle tactics on Vince's show a few times, twice, I think. So, I mean, you've heard it all here. Yeah, we gotta, I would like to cool it on them. I don't like really playing with them. I didn't at, how do I put this? I didn't like him at first. And then the more I played, the more I liked him. And then after about a month and a half, I hit a wall and began to realize that every game was the same. It homogenized my choices during the game and during list building too much. So that every game was, all right, turn 1 I do this battle tactic, turn 2 I do that battle tactic, turn 3 I do this one. I build my list so that that's the way it works. Yeah, too much. They're also so strong. They're such a strong design nod that you can look at one of the bottom 5 armies in the game and give them 2 free battle tactics that they can accomplish automatically for free, and suddenly they're like, they win 20% more often, and now they're middle of the pack or whatever. They're way too impactful. Even though they are very nice from like a balance point of view. Yeah, big wah. And I don't like them from a tournament structure point of view either. I don't like them as a tiebreaker. But Age of Sigmar has a tiebreaker problem in any case. Which I talked about on a different other show. No, I think it was the same one, maybe. Where I proposed a system of running and having and TOing most Warhammer tournaments except the huge ones that have enough time to be 4 days or 3 days or 6 rounds cut to a top 8 or something, except for those. I proposed a system where you just didn't do tiebreakers. And I felt that was better. But, I mean, you guys have probably heard that, right? Because I've talked about that before. Ahem. Switch hats? Sure. Long story short, I don't like playing to battle tactics, and I don't like building to battle tactics. I would rather the complexity be in the battle plan and in the battle tome. Take all the complexity of the game that you added with battle tactics and instead split them in half and put half of them in the battle plan as far as complexity and what you have to do in the game to win, and then complexity, put it back into the battle tome after taking a lot of it out from second to third is how I would do it. You hate them as a tiebreaker in tournaments? Yeah, I don't think they work as a tiebreaker. It selects for the player who dumpstered weaker opponents the hardest, I think. Which is in general like you're selecting for the most skewed matchups. And I don't think that needs to be rewarded in general. You know? When you're talking about tiebreakers.
Dylan!
Oh, Shorty Paint Studios with a raid.
You son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. Big raid. Hey, Shorty Paint Studios, thanks for stopping by. What were you guys working on? We're doing some AoS hot takes, responses, etc. What's up, fellas? What were you painting this evening? Thanks for the follow, Raikozja. Anyway, yeah, I don't think it works very well as a tiebreaker. Because in general, it selects for the player who had the weakest opponents. And I think that's, if anything, the opposite of what you want. If you care, if you're a strength of schedule kind of person, you know, any sort of tiebreaker that isn't just playing more rounds is going to have downsides to it, and strength of schedule does as well. And it's going to be maybe a little arbitrary and a little random, but we don't have time for cutting to top 8 or having a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket or running 8 rounds for your tournament, and so you just don't have time. And so you gotta have tiebreakers somehow, although I don't think you do. I think there is no need for tiebreakers whatsoever in Warhammer tournaments. First of all, they're not necessarily competitive enough for that to be a necessity in any case. Do it like paint judging. Alright, everyone in the room who is 5-0 after 5 rounds, raise your hand. Out of what? A 50-person tournament? 2 of them? Alright. 2 trophies, please. Here's your gold trophy. Your 5-0 trophy. There you are. You 2 are undefeated. Congratulations, shake the hands, take the pictures. That's it. If you're 4-0-1, great record, better luck next time. And that's it. You got trophies for every 5-0 player. And then for the huge tournaments, the big ones, 100 people, 200 people, those are events so large that they usually run 3 days or even 4 days anyway. And they often have a cut to top 8, and they often have way more rounds of Swiss. They'll handle it the right way. And there you go. Couldn't you just use opponent win percent as a tiebreaker? You could, but I don't know that... I suppose, why must you have a tiebreaker at a 50-person event? Exactly. There's no prizes. Or there's no cash prizes, I guess, that you couldn't do. Why must you... Because 5 rounds is so few that you've only played essentially 2 rounds of the tournament playing against the people you ought to be, once you consider Swiss. It's so few rounds, you're kind of grasping at straws and bean counting to figure out something for a tiebreaker. People want to say they won? Well then, look, I want to win the Mega Millions. I don't know. If you want to say you won, then have 8 rounds of Swiss, 10 rounds of Swiss, cut to a top 8, have all the 5-0 people play against each other instead of bean count whoever had the weakest opponents or the strongest opponents or whatever, you know? You haven't played enough games to determine a proper winner. That's the fact of the matter. You simply haven't played enough games to determine a proper winner, and so you want to say you won? Sorry, you didn't play enough games for that. Would you have to make a bunch of trophies to prep for every possible combination of 5-0? Not really. What's the maximum number of 5-0s for 50 people? Considering it cuts in half, we'll round up every time, right? Round 1, you have 25 winners. Round 2, you have 12.5. Right? Round 3, you have 6. Round 4, you have 3. Round 5, you have maybe 2. Is that so much? Like, instead of making 9 different first, second, and third place trophies, maybe just have gold ones. You still do the painting stuff, you still do the best overall stuff, you do all that fun stuff, but, you know. It's also a huge load off the TOs. They don't have to fuck with figuring all that shit out, you know. 20-point system seems to incentivize blowouts, though, right? What's the 20-point system? I've looked into some of the tiebreakers that Warhammer uses, and it seems to me that every one of them either is strength of schedule, which is quote-unquote the most fair, in a sense, because it cares about the strongest opponents you happen to have, a little out of your control, or it incentivizes giving the trophy to the person who happened to have the weakest opponents that got crushed the hardest, which I don't think is good either. It essentially rewards the easiest road to the top rather than the hardest road, which I don't think is quite there either. I would essentially say that there doesn't even need to be tiebreakers. Just give 5-0 trophies and fuck the rest. If you won your 5 games by a mile and the other guy won 5 games scraping by, guy 1 wins, why? I don't care how you won your games, you just won them. If you destroyed 5 people, or you barely won all 5, I care about wins, losses, and draws. You know? Just... I don't care how much you won by, you crossed the finish line. Ahem. I mean, we're not the Olympics. We're not judging you based on how many backflips you're doing. It's not like the... So in the Winter Games, they're like, ooh, you do backflips and stuff, and you can get a maximum of 9.0, and you... I'm mostly talking about a race. Like, whoever's across the finish line or something. Play to win. Every 32 players, you can get 1 5-0, so 64, you can have a max of 2. That's not so bad. Because once you get over 100, or much over 100, you're probably... Maybe you have 6 rounds at that point, because it's like a big event. So in general, I'm talking about small to medium-sized tournaments. And plus, I think everybody already kind of thinks like this. If you get back from an event, and somebody asks how you did, you tell them you went 4-1. You don't say, I was in a 22-way tie for 17th. Like, what the fuck does that even mean, you know? Take LVO, they had 11 5-0s. LVO had a top 8, though, and a lot of rounds. LVO is big enough to be able to do it the right way, and so they don't need to use my system. LVO is a very competitive tournament as well. They got a lot of people there, and they have more rounds than normal, and I think they had a top 8. They had a shadow round and then a top 8. Yeah, so they'll do it that way, which is fine for them. That's the kind of thing you should do once you get a certain size. My system is only for smaller and medium events. And it's just easier for everyone, especially for the TOs, I think. Yeah, you essentially have the number of 5-0 available players every round, but if there's an uneven number, then you're going to have somebody get paired up and somebody get paired down. And also there's draws to consider, but we're just thinking about the maximum number in general, right? Fun-sized events, yeah. What was the 20-point system, though? What was that thing? Somebody mentioned a 20-point system. What was that? We'll do the next one while I wait for that. But anyway, battle tactics, yeah, they're not fun. I hope we make them less important in 4th. I hope we don't get faction battle tactics. That doesn't work very well. I essentially don't like them. They're one of the things about 3rd edition that are a blight, I think, in general. So if you beat someone 20-21, then the score will be 11-9. If you beat someone 25-4, the score will be 20-0. So it cares about how much you won. Don't like that. Don't like that. It's kind of like inventing. It's like arbitrarily inventing a tiebreaker that shouldn't have anything to do with anything, in my opinion. This isn't a horseshoes. I don't care how close you got. Did you get a win? Did you get a loss? Or did you get a draw? Maybe this is the Magic player in me. Maybe it's because of my history. But it's like, who gives a fuck how much life your opponent was at before you won? You know? Or how many creatures they had out. Alright, I'm playing a combo deck, and you got to 100 life. Congratulations, I win. Like, oh, but he gets a few points because he gained some life. Why? Word. Okay. Weird. It's like the ultimate, like, copium kind of thing. I don't know. I don't care. Just win the game. The exact manner in which you win, we will punish you or reward you for winning or losing in a certain way. Why? Absolute copium. And it promotes sometimes some weird play patterns, I think, that are, I don't know. It's a weird incentive. If anything, wouldn't a tighter win margin imply a tougher opponent? Maybe? Kind of depends. Maybe their army just is great against you. You know? Maybe it's a bad matchup. Maybe your opponent is better than you, or worse, or you're both bad. I don't know. It could imply so many things that I think it's essentially meaningless. Like, why does it matter how close the win was? It's copium. Just win or lose. That's it. I think it's weird. Just use total victory points? Why? All that matters then is that you, the player, do and not what your opponent does, unless they table you or stop you from getting those victory points somehow by playing. Like, am I supposed to beat my opponent during the game? Or during the game, am I supposed to beat everyone in the entire tournament who's playing that round? And walk around and see how much, ooh, that guy's winning by 10, 5 tables down, so I better win at 11. Just win your rounds. It strikes me as like, I keep saying this and I really shouldn't, I guess, but yeah, it strikes me as like copium. Ooh, I almost won. Hey. Sounds like an L to me. I won a really hard game against a really good opponent. That'll make a great story. But just write W on your slip and turn it in. And I think this has got to be some ingrained ancient wargamer thing that doesn't make sense to me as a Magic player. Like, you know, okay, how do you determine between two people that have 5-0? How do you determine who should win the tournament? ideally, okay, you have 2 5-0s. Who should get the trophy in the ideal situation? Pretend physics, like, you can do whatever you want. There's only one answer. They play. They play the game. That's how you determine a winner. The 2 best in the room, they have a play-off, a finals, right? But if you don't have enough time to have them play, I really don't think you can look at their scorecards and confidently say that one of them is just better or would win if they played. It's a bunch of fan fiction, bean counting, and so I think it's not good enough. And I would say, just give them both 5-0s, or have them play. Anyway, good talk. Final round hype, yeah. Cut the baby in half, exactly. Stormcast are cool and not lame Sigmarines. I think we've gotten to the point where this is true. I made a video about it. They used to be pretty lame. They got cool though. And now they are actually quite cool. I think it is known though. Is this... I guess that this would have been a hot take in first edition. I think it's maybe lukewarm right now. It's lukewarm. It's not cold. I think it's lukewarm. You gotta do something about that default color scheme, though. It's holding you back. They basically couldn't pick the worst one. As soon as they got dragons, and capes with Sarcosanct and robes, the new wave of stuff, fucking dude on dragon, there was some cool stuff back in the day. Somebody mentioned the Realmgate Wars books. Lord Relictor. Here and there was some cool stuff. You just had to find it. Now I think it's kind of out in the open. Gun-ass crossbows, true take now. I didn't like those. Yeah. Silver and red is next best. Hungry Panda. Hallowed Knights is right there. True. Hallowed Knights is looking good. Next. Every realm should have at least one mapped out section that serves as a sort of narrative focus in the larger meta-narrative. They did this. So, not only do I agree, but Games Workshop agreed. They've done this. The infinite realms where everything exists is great for creative freedom, but it does suffer a little in that it's really difficult to have good narrative stakes at the highest level. There is nothing more certain in the universe than narrative people love maps. They fucking love maps. I don't understand it myself, but people who care about lore and narrative and stuff, they love maps. Can't get enough of them. Anyway. Yeah, they did this. Recently. They started giving maps and having important places be on them. And that was good. So, your take is the take that Games Workshop has taken to reality. Like, they heeded the call. They've started doing this. So good work. You're so right that Games Workshop agrees with you. Lol, it's Dalen, thanks for the Prime. Sorry you're late, don't worry about it. Lucky 13 months. What's the first thing printed in a fantasy novel? I don't know, chapter 1? There's some pages in front of chapter 1, but I skipped them because who cares? I'm a noted map not carer, though. And I always wondered, like, what's this? What are these pages with just spaghetti on them before the book starts? What is this? Who wants this? And the answer was, like, literally everyone except me. Maybe it's because I have no direction sense whatsoever. And so a map is just looking at ones and zeros that you can't make heads or tails out of. Maps in AoS are like map satire, though. Well, I was about to say that the first few maps they made in first edition were like unironic, like MS Paint nonsense. But they still call everything wibbly wobbly Doctor Who nonsense because they can't help themselves. So now that we have better maps now, but they still call everything Gum Gulch and shit like that. If you don't want fucking stupid names for everything, my man, you cannot play a Games Workshop game. You'll be seething until you die. Taking something you thought was maybe serious and giving it the stupidest name you could possibly think of is what Games Workshop does for a living. Old World map, which was Earth plus Donut, yeah. Casual players need a balanced game. You can see the crux of this issue in 40k. Mekanosh, thanks for the tier 1. When you take a balanced list of units, armies in 40k are so unbalanced. A balanced mishmash of units in AoS will generally make for a balanced game regardless of the army played. I disagree. In fact, I think casuals need balance even more than hardcore competitive players. This is a truism in game design, actually. This person has stumbled upon a fact of game design. It is, in fact, the casuals who need balance the most. It's not the competitive players. The competitive players will just choose whatever's winning, or they'll train so hard that they're so much better than their opponents that they beat them anyway. They'll deal with it. A casual player will not deal with it. They will quit. So, unironically true. Little Timmy and Little Tammy that both buy the 1,000-point half army box from Games Workshop and just build that and play against each other have to have a roughly equal game. That's more important, I think. So, yeah. The problem is, when the game is about letting you choose anything to make 2,000 points out of, you either give people the freedom to fail, thereby have unbalanced games, or you put guardrails on there that are so strong that Timmy and Tammy always get balanced games, but none of your choices matter. Because you can't change that much anyway, so that Timmy and Tammy can have always a balanced game. And you really do have to choose between those two things. A lot of these things aren't, mutually exclusive, but it's a balance between how much a player's choices can matter, and the more a player choice matters, the more unbalanced your game can be. But the less player choice matters, the more boring and shitty your game is. All the way down to it's just flipping coins and playing chutes and ladders like a child, and nobody finds a game like that interesting. If you're playing a game where player choice essentially doesn't matter and it really is just all randomness, adult humans find that kind of a game boring and just sort of pointless. It's good for kids, but not even kids of all ages. So in general, I say, give them the freedom to die. But, that's just me. Everybody's trying to make the coolest game for them, It's a big old balance. It's hard to do. Casual players are the bulk of the customer base? No. People who don't play are the bulk of the customer base. I know what you mean, though, Carrion Lich. You mean that casual players outnumber competitive players, and you are right. But the moms that go into a Games Workshop and buy a bunch of stuff that their kid will probably not even open, much less assemble, outnumber players of the game by like 90%. So I guess maybe that's just like some food for thought. The sheer quantity of, or the sheer quantity of people who just don't play but keep the game afloat, right? Yeah, there are more casual players than competitive players. There are more people who play the game once a year than people who go to tournaments, by a lot even. But both of them are dwarfed by the number of people who, like, just don't play. And just maybe paint stuff or collect stuff or bought stuff one time and stopped or whatever. Get more than one game in a year or ever. Ahem. Nagash is not worth his points in a high-level game, but is OP at low points for casuals. Is he? I actually don't know. I'd be interested in seeing a game. I wonder. Because a lot of times that kind of thing is true, Mr. Magic Conch. A lot of times that's very true. You get this with fighting games a lot. There was somebody in chat that had FGC in their name. You get this kind of thing with fighting games a lot. Where if you are new or bad, or I don't want a negative connotation this, but let's pretend that nobody's any good in your friend circle. There's going to be like one character that everyone is like thinking is so overpowered that they like bully people for choosing that character, right? They like actively socially bully them for playing such an overpowered character. That character is always like a joke amongst the competitive players. They're like, this character is trash. It is the worst character. It has one move, which is so easy to beat, and the rest of its toolkit is trash. And that's like the character that the new players are like, I can't believe that Oko wants to, like, he doesn't want money. People are quitting the game because of how strong this character is, right? And I bet it's true. Yeah, it's true in a lot of games. Oh, we talked about Eddie, Honda, and Street Fighter 6, Potemkin, Busta, or just heavy characters in fighting games. You learned about this in a surprisingly deep Twitter thread on game design. That's what you're describing. Yeah, this is a thing I have noticed over time. And it transcends a lot of different game types. It's just, when you're talking about design and balance, fighting games are such easy examples because they're like pure examples. I don't know how to explain it away, but yeah, and so that's kind of that. You saw this in 2nd edition a lot. In 2nd edition AoS, everyone said that evocators were overpowered. Absolutely OP. You get a unit of 10 evocators, kill anything in the game. OP. And then as soon as you got 3 wins, you would play against somebody who also has 3 wins, and they'd deploy all their chaff in front of their guys, and now evocators are trash. What are you going to do? Charge my chaff? Okay, it's dead. My turn, countercharge you, kill your evocators, there you go. You thought those were good? But chaff just beats them, and everyone plays with chaff. What do you mean? Like, the level 1 strat of the whole game renders evocators essentially bad. And I'm like, what? You play with chaff? What's that? Nobody in my local store plays with chaff. Well, then I guess they like to lose. No, they don't like to lose. They complain about this all the time. Well, all right. Tekken was especially bad for this in early games because of the impact of fast, long-range kicking. Okay. Battle line is idiot-proofing and it still fails. Yeah, so battle line is supposed to force everyone to play chaff, because a new player will choose not to 10 times out of 10. Unfortunately, in every single battle tome, they give you infinite options to play fucking whatever as battle line, just anything. And so people are always going to gravitate to the most elite, badass, there's no universe where this should be battle line, but it just is. Here you go, you took a sub-faction. And then they've tricked themselves into not playing chaff in the, in the first place after all. That's like, battle line requirements were supposed to force new players to play chaff, but we've made it too free to play cool stuff as battle line, and now we've undone the very purpose of it in the first place. I say, playing a faction that doesn't have any chaff. Well, I want to play with monster trucks. I'm just fine with losing. The only thing is you don't complain about it, and then it's fair. That's it. That's the real part. If you're fine with it, it's fine. You see this with a lot of people's takes on shooting, especially online. A lot of people think Unleash Hell is OP, but as somebody who plays a lot shooting armies, friends just always charges chaff into shooting and then forces Unleash Hell into useless units. Yep. Or maybe you got some Yetis, you piled them in 6, hey, they piled in, that's not even a charge. And then a lot of the bow characters are so weak in melee that they can't actually even kill all the Yetis. Or you run some cats or Mournfang or something like that. Alright, 2 Mournfang charge, you can only hit them on 6s, Unleash Hell would be kind of a waste. Alright, they're in, now the Stonehorn comes in. Like, it's a, it is a skill testing thing, and it gives the player that has shooting some target priority issues to worry about. You could shoot the thing that's really good, or you could shoot the thing that's going to waste your Unleash Hell next turn. And then that's a choice you make. It's, that's why you play the game, to force your opponent to have to make choices. You were about to say Nobblers aren't worth getting. In a Beastclaw army, not really, no. In a Gutbuster army, for sure. You start with them. It's just when your whole army is move 14, you essentially, and they don't fly, Nobblers actually hurt you more than they help. In Gutbusters, Nobblers are the shit. A little overpriced after they got increased by 20% out of nowhere, because they did good in one tournament. Stonehorn charges away from the shooting unit, chugs a Red Bull, and cuts donuts over the shooters. If you roll high, yeah. You gotta just believe in that 36, but yes. Yeah, overwhelming charge or overwhelming stampede or whatever it's called. Kind of nice for that too. But the thing is, you really do need your impact hits to be able to do good damage with the Stonehorn, because the rest of its profile is super random. It is a way around it though. Nobblers are fairly priced. 6 points per wound is right for the mortal wound output. The mortal wound output is, on average, what, 1? Yeah, okay. I don't know. I think 100 was fair. But that's just me. As an almost player, but not quite player of the army, I thought 100 was fine. For 4 up D3 mortal wounds once. Maybe twice. Should have added your ogres should get overwhelming charge through their own Nobblar screens, yeah. Usually you get 4 to 7 before your opponent finally decides they need to waste an activation killing them. Damn, your opponent tries to greed it? Well, then you have... If your opponent's trying to get greedy, then you're going to feed them mortal wounds until they finally decide to clean their plate. Sounds like good generalship to me. What were we talking about here, though? Oh, yeah, balance? Yeah, basically agree. Good talk. Everyone above me should not be allowed to play AoS? Damn. Everyone above me is wrong, everyone below me is slow, am I right? Good meme. All-terrain should be impassable. It basically is already. a 4-inch high wall makes my Stonehorn move like 3 inches total for the entire movement phase. It's almost impassable as it is. What more do you want from me? I'm sick and tired of people abusing wobbly models to fuck over all the tactical screening I do. Bro. 4 inches up, 4 inches down. Minus 8-inch net movement over the turn. That is so brutal. It's so brutal. The wobbly model thing is a bit weird. I don't think it's a satisfactory way to play, but I can't think of a better way. Why are these rocks going to be here if you can just ignore them? I wish I could ignore them, but I don't have flying. I'm not ignoring the rules of the game. I think that if you are the size of an elephant except built like a silverback gorilla mixed with an oxen, you can run through a wooden wall and not even slow down. So, anyway. Anyway. Tell that to the bloodthirster that stood on the ruins and killed all of your Tzeentch wizards. Wobbly model rules aren't actually in the game, if you recall correctly. Yeah, the way the rule works, as far as I know in the game, is you just put a marker wherever the thing happens to be. You don't have to fit the model actually on there, I think. You just go up and down the terrain. If you're halfway up it, that's just where you are. That's kind of unsatisfying. But so is putting a model on something and hoping it doesn't fall. Do you think they'll ever do base must be fully touching the mat thing? No, I don't think they will. They like their terrain to look cool so that the table looks cool. Because it's still very important to them that people watching the game be played are impressed by the cool shit that's happening, which is why they make their terrain look cool and all the models look cool and stuff like that. And I think making terrain way simpler and make sure that a base can always land on it or making it two-dimensional or something, I just don't think they're willing to do that. Why don't they have better terrain for sale then? Define better. Do you mean terrain that you could never have a wobbly model on that always fits perfectly? Just about the only way you could do that is by having it be a picture of terrain as a flat two-dimensional space, you know. They're mostly just interested in cool-looking terrain for AoS. They basically don't have terrain for sale online at all. I don't know what kind of stocking issues they have. I know their terrain is mostly made in China, or was. They put it in Warcry boxes and stuff now for the most part. We'll get better terrain when it's all holograms, true. What is 4K, 40K 9th edition style rules? What is it? I don't know 40K. What were those rules? .3D printing and cheap MDF is going to kill their terrain business outside of skirmish games. That's the only part of the sky is falling 3D printing thing that I believe. I don't actually think 3D printing is much of a problem for Games Workshop. However, who buys the most terrain? Tournament organizers and stores. You know, dozens, perhaps hundreds of pieces of terrain. When you are a business and you're doing that, you are going to look for a way not to have to pay GW prices for it. So, that's like the one part of 3D printing that I think really is for the most part, a big deal for them. Because the people who buy 100 of them almost ubiquitously are going to choose 3D printing, and that's like store owners and TOs. Base the terrain so the rules apply to a larger footprint and not just a rock. Fair. 40k 9th terrain rules were functional. Keywords applied to terrain pieces gave them rules. Infantry can pass through walls, but monsters can't. Damn, that's like the opposite of how it should be, I think. If you're outside the footprint, an enemy on the other side can't see you at all, etc. Okay. Because it's like an infantry can maneuver around walls pretty easily, or go through windows, or go around it. I get that. But a monster can smash through it without even slowing down, so I get that too. This is sort of like the dangers of trying to be a simulation rather than a game. Is you can use realism, quote-unquote realism with fantasy stuff to argue for anything. In general. Always been your thought process on how goofy terrain rules were? Unsquadron. Verisimilitude, my beloved. Anyway, I don't think it should be impassable. But some of it should be. I could imagine a terrain feature that's impassable. You know, lava, something like that. Please believe me that people without flying are not abusing this tactical screening stuff. The most miserable thing in the entire fucking world is having to deal with goddamn terrain when you're a huge base model who doesn't fly. It is miserable. I'm furious every second I have to do it. So it sucks for us too. You're tactically reducing my overall movement by like -9. Good work. It's shit. Just cast levitate. Yeah, forehead. You know that spell casts on an 8 or some shit? Most of the time, I have found that people tend to try to ignore terrain. They try to not play near it because it's so annoying. Most of their effects only work on wholly on top of that terrain too, which makes it extra hard to get it to have any benefit. Hope you didn't play when Sylv could pop out 3 single trees in a single cast and just pin you in. Oh, I did. Yes, I played in that edition. Yeah. I played in that edition. That was the edition where Beastclaw Raiders versus Sylvaneth. On most of the battle plans in the game, you actually didn't need to play. Now, hyperbolically, you could say that about a bunch of matchups, but this one was just true. Most of the... I don't think a single part of their combo involved rolling a die. It all just worked. And then they'd be wholly on with 2 rings around all of the objectives on the table. They'd get a lot of points, and you couldn't actually break through it in time to score any points, and the game was over. Like, you actually didn't need to play. A few times in first, and sometimes in second as well. You were talking about the beginning of third? Oh, okay. Third's the best shot we've had in a while against him, even though I think they're favored. Yeah, I remember when endless spells were impassable, and they could summon the chains, and I just didn't have any wizards because I was Beastclaw, so it's just like, alright, yeah, I'm stuck here forever. I can never escape. Was this part of the first edition Sylvaneth horror stories? Yeah, there were a lot of them. Yeah. Wildwoods were like the most hated singular game piece in the game. I know Vince did a big, like, questionnaire, and it turned out that the Wildwoods were the most annoying / hated rule or, like, thing in the entirety of Age of Sigmar at the time. And, kind of agree. City of Sigmar should just be human-only faction. It basically is. Got him. This is probably a meme, but I humongously disagree. One of the most interesting parts of Cities of Sigmar is that it's throwing off the chains of lazy tropes of the past. And one of the lazy tropes of the past is that the elves hate the dwarves in every fucking thing. And every army is just a race, and all the races are separate, and this race hates that race, and this race hates the other race, and all this shit. And that 40k is, we're gonna invent a universe so dark that it seems like, you know, the worst government system possible is the only thing that can, you know, stop that or whatever. And then show you throughout the lore and stuff that that's not the case, but ostensibly it is. And so finally, we had kind of a realistic one. Like kind of a realistic one actually, right? Where what are Cities of Sigmar in Age of Sigmar? They are the Carl Sagan's candles in the darkness. Beset on all sides, Archaon conquers the world, demon portals everywhere, demons everywhere, chaos worshippers everywhere, certain death completely surrounded. It's over. For 800 years, you lost. And city after city, nation after nation, after kingdom after democracy, tumbled and was conquered by chaos. Until, as a last stand, backs to the wall, the old rivalries were set aside. We have to work together or we all go extinct. And they all worked together and they won. Which is kind of realistic, actually. As opposed to this super common, you know, purity, eye-rolling kind of fashy messages being pushed all throughout, you know, whatever. Usually kind of used as a bit of a smoke screen for it, right? And then here we get, nope, elves and dwarves, humans, halflings, whoever the fuck, everybody works together, because it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is results and how good you are, how skilled you are, how good your technology is. I don't care how you do it, you just gotta win, right? And that was cool. And then their rules were just like humans get this, elves get that, because they couldn't write interesting rules yet. And they still kind of, I thought it would have been kind of cool if the rules reflected that lore. And they decided not to do it, and I was disappointed. I think you should get boxes of Cities of Sigmar units. Like, you get a box of Guard, and it's got, like, elves in there, it's got 2 dwarves, it's got 4 humans, it's got a fucking ogre conscript guy as the 1 in 10, you know, they're like mixed race units. I think that would have been cool. And all the different heroes and stuff, like here's the elven hero. And what does he do? Well, he can give a buff to any ally, but it's an elven buff, because we still respect where he came from and his special elven eyes that can see, or whatever the fuck, right? So we still respect that, but he just gives it to whoever he's working with. And here's the dwarf hero that oh, he's wide gaming and you get +3 wideness if an ally is near here. Like, okay, he represents dwarf stuff and you can give it to whoever. And then here's the human one and they represent, I don't know, whatever humans have. Ingenuity, pattern recognition, filling up XP bars, cheating, I'm not sure. Anyway, that's the fan fiction that I was hoping for as far as the rules. But then they made the rules and it's just like, nope, only humans target humans and elves target elves. That would be a cool one time to like tie the lore in with the rules writing. But they didn't do it. I'm hoping they do something like that in the future. It would be cool. Heywoah coming up with infinitely better faction rules than GW literally on the spot. I don't know if I could describe exactly what +3 wideness exactly gives, but sure, okay. +3 wide rolls within 12, not even wholly within 12. Maybe your wideness means you're counted as wholly within even though you're not because you're that wide, I don't know. Man is earning a Michelin star with the cooking going on. +1 inch to base size. Ignores coherency. It's something. You're always coherent. Anyway, AoS should just be a humans only faction. Sounds like the old world ass opinion to me. Boring. Keep it in there. Let's get interesting in AoS. Next. Cruel Boys are an unnecessary faction that should have been made to bolster Ironjaw's and Bonesplitter options, not compete with them. Ooh. Getting a little spicy. Getting a little spicy with these takes. I don't think the game really needed a third different type of orc. So that's one fact, or maybe opinion I have. I don't think the game needed yet another type of orc. We had 2 orc types already. Chill with a third. Is what I would have said before Cruel Boys came out. And actually, when asked before Cruel Boys came out or were even spoiled, that's what I did say. I said, don't give me another fucking green orc army. You got 2 green orc armies, give me something new. Is what I would say and have said. But Bone Splitters are real shit. And stupid looking and boring. And haven't been given a lot of support at all. And Cruel Boys came out and they look sick. Their Sludge Raker beasts look sick. The Master Blasters look sick. Their dude who can talk all the languages on the Raven Turkey Vulture he's flying around on is sick. Ghoul Dan, I mean not Ghoul Dan, unique idea, do not steal, is sick. The Slitter guys are... Actually, those guys suck. They are not cool. But you can't win them all. You know? You can't win them all. So overall, the Cruel Boys are dope. They look great. They have an interesting idea for the theme of their rules, which took a while to get there, but we got there. If there's ever an odd man out among orcs, it's clearly Bone Splitters. That's kind of the meme. So, yeah, okay. Nice hot take. But Cruel Boys are a million times more interesting than Bone Splitters. Bone Splitters are more boring than Fire Slayers, and that's insane. Also, this might not be fair. In fact, it's not fair. Bone Splitters have been getting shit on as far as support. You don't even have a named guy. You don't even have a centerpiece. You don't even have a monster. you lost half of your rules. Like, you used to have a monster hunting rule system, and you just don't now. There's memes that you're on your way out of the game itself, which is nuts. I don't know what's gonna happen. So if you are competing with them, as this tweet says, not compete with them, well, it ain't looking good in that competition. If you just put the Wargog Prophet in Iron Jaws because some silly staring guy fits there too thematically, Bone Splitters have actual nothing. Yeesh. Square bases in the future? I don't know. The only problem with Cruel Boys is that they have too many heroes. Yeah, a few too many. That's the problem with everyone in all of AoS, though. You have a million foot heroes. Because 3 years ago, they decided to pair every battle tome with a foot hero no one asked for, regardless of what the army wanted or needed. And now everybody has too many foot heroes. And some people started with too many foot heroes before that. Well, what are you going to do? Probably was good for business or whatever. Bone Splitters are in perfect position to be reworked, to be proper green tie that is lacking from AoS currently. That would require effort. Yeah, it would require effort, and it would be a big risk. I wonder if they'll do it. I wonder if they'll do something like it, or if it'll just get split up and kind of sprinkled wherever. You mean the supplemental portion of Big Wa? Yes. You like the new Curseling of Tzeentch? That wasn't a new unit, just a remake of an old one. A remake of an old one is always fine with me. I will never make fun of them for doing that, because it's what I'm always asking for usually. I'm always like, here's some fine cast garbage from 2005. If you give me a new plastic version of that, it's like illegal to complain. I'm contractually obliged never to complain about that. I didn't even complain when Gorgers got remade, because that's the contract I signed. Yo, we're back. You know, Gutbusters with the word game is Buttgusters, and that fits too. And there's your moment of zen. But yeah, I think they did get the Gutbuster keyword, which is appropriate. They should have it. They're in that army, right? Doom Swagga, first time chatta. AoS questions talk only of just currently. Going over some hot takes, but discussion welcome. And new hot takes fine. We're on number 16 of 76, but actually, we're on number 117 of 220. Because this is Friday show too. You've been tempted to start Gutbusters, but you've been wondering if the line isn't overdue for a resculpt, given their now legacy in Old World. I think they are, because it's like my army, and they have arguably some of the most fine cast percentage, I guess, in the army amongst factions. However, Skaven deserve it more, obviously. They're in a worse spot. But after Skaven, it's like ogres who have a shitload of fine cast and old, embarrassing crap. Beasts of Chaos, who are apparently just a warehouse for old stuff that they really haven't done a lot with. They did just give him that one foot hero guy. And that guy looks cool, so I don't know. I'm hoping on Ogres next. And I hope it's not a brand new third faction or something. I hope they do their homework a little bit. I hope they finish their homework before they play cool spot on the Sega Genesis. Even though it's a pretty decent platformer for a soda tie-in. Oh, he's getting another foot here. Yeah, how about a fourth hunter who sucks? How about that? Ogres need replacement of fine cast. Butcher, Slaughtermaster, Yetis, Man-Eaters. True. Also, Hunter. Icebrow Hunter. Also, Frost Sabers. And that's just fine cast. Besides that, plastic sculpts do be looking a little derpy. I'm not gonna lie. What's everyone rocking for drinks? Chalky Boost. It's got vitamins and shit. It's got electrolytes. It's what plants crave. It's the only flavor that doesn't get gross after like the first day. You'd think strawberry'd be alright. It ain't. Fire Slayers need something that's not a foot hero. True. Fire Slayers need the second wave. They need those like magma wolf riders. They need some giant like iron golem shit with anvils for hands or something. They need some technology. They need some cavalry. Essentially, Fire Slayers need the second wave. That really adds some variety to essentially very, very samey looking guys. In my IMO. Baby Droth chariots, just tiny little pugs, yeah, with derpy eyes. We need more foot heroes. Dweghum from Conquest, Tele Owak. I don't know any. I have no idea what any of those words mean. Zach, who's the insane? What was that? Keep in mind, I was never a Warhammer Fantasy player. The Last Argument of Kings. Oh, okay, not Talaowak. I got it. We're good. Diet Barks. Look, Barks is a quality root beer. It's got a good bite to it. Haven't tried the diet. Actual hot take, GW should magic up a lore reason for the Great Horned Rat to switch to Destruction from Chaos. Look, the reality is, wherever Skaven end up, they will have no allies anyway, because everyone hates them. So it essentially doesn't matter what Grand Alliance they're in, at the end of the day. Got them. I'm just hoping their model line refresh is wide. And tall. Next. Glucose is a good unit. True. Not even a hot take. Literally true. And Sigvald was a waste of points and not worth it anymore compared to the old book. There was a time when Sigvald was actually quite good. But he was like a desperate quite good. I don't know if people play with Sigvald right now in Slaanesh. Slaanesh players are going to have to help me out. But Glutos is sick. He's actually good. He's the best Fire Slayer centerpiece that ever accidentally found its way into Slaanesh for some fucking reason. Worst take you've seen? Sigvald's still good and no one plays him because in Slaanesh he just dies. That's the problem. Melee Assassin's worst role for AoS? Yeah. A Melee Assassin becomes good when they can actually kill something and there's a delivery method. Or they're just invincible. Right. Yeah, how much are 11 Bliss Barbs? 500 points now or whatever? The only good unit you have? It's also a top tier model. It is definitely a top tier model. It's Dio Brando. non-hero monsters are worse? Arguable. They can at least roar now. I know that's not a lot, but they can at least perform a roar. Melee assassins, jeez. I mean, kind of whoever wins this pity contest, we all lose, so. Play Unsquadron, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Anyway, it caused some discussion in chat, so maybe we'll say a decent hot take. I happen to like the rules of Glutos. And I wish Sigvald were better, but his category is weak. And also kind of just dies. You wish GW would make good combat-based foot heroes? They should be awesome, but they're always lame. Why? Foot heroes used to have a job. And that job was use command abilities. And then they made every single unit in the whole game able to just use command abilities on itself. Except for most of mine. And so, literally, they're out of a job. They're on the street with a cardboard sign that says, God bless. They have no purpose. They don't want to make them actually good at fighting. Because if you made a foot hero actually good at fighting, you would want to take a foot hero instead of like 10 guys or something. I don't know. I can't pretend to know why they don't. But they don't. It would be cool though. Should a foot hero be able to take on a unit of 5? That's a designer question. What is the vision of your game? Is that the kind of thing that you want to happen in your game that you're designing? How heroic are your heroes? You know? I think it's just like a personal preference for what the game itself looks like. Out there ended like a word? Yeah, so there are foot heroes that can fight, but they don't cost foot hero points. They cost like 200. Or 425 or something like that. You only get 6 heroes though, that's the balancing lever, isn't it? Yeah, and also you can't fit that many in a 1-drop battalion. And so that's the other balancing lever. I'm not telling you good reasons not to do it, I'm just telling you what I imagine are their reasons not to do it. Yeah, Bastion 300... Primetime 300, Yndrost, everybody in Stormcast that's kind of like that, 300. Megaboss on foot carves for 140. True, he does have move 4, but there are ways in the army to get around that. He's a Chad. I think if anybody should be able to cleave as a foot hero, I mean, like, you're playing Mortal Kombat and you hold the shoulder buttons and it does the X-ray and it looks like a fatality and then the guy gets up and just keeps fighting the match, right? I'm thinking Iron Jaws, Ogres, and Khorne. If anybody in the game's foot heroes should be able to slap shit, it's like, to me, those are like the top 3 that immediately come to mind. Khorne, Iron Jaws, Ogres. There's probably more, but those are like the instant came into my head right away. Maybe your foot heroes can level up or something. He gets a Bankai and now he can fight after he lives for 3 battle rounds. I don't know. You gotta make sure, though, that a hero that can actually fight never has any other utility at all, right? Because otherwise now there's no choice. You can't make a foot hero that's a wizard that can also fight. That's illegal. Because if a wizard, or if a foot hero is a wizard, then you're already playing him. If a foot hero is a priest, you're already playing him. They already have a job. That was the original point of Slayer cults, is to kill stuff till you die. Yeah, and then they should do that then. Sure. There's room for 4 factions to have slappers, right? Sure. Aldarian's a wizard, ain't he? Yeah, but he's like 200. Once you get... Obviously, you can pay for it, right? We're talking the 100 range. 100, 140, 150, that kind of foot hero era. Actually, is Altharian like the only thing in the whole army that's not a wizard, actually? I don't think he is. Plan mode, thanks for the tier 1. For 7 months, appreciate it. We're making the game better one suggestion at a time. Zangor should have better rules in Disciples of Tzeentch. Sure. Like literally any synergy at all would be great. I agree. Cold take. Battle Tome rules should be better. War Scroll rules should be better written. Sure, yeah. Good work. I mean, if you're going to give me a hot take that's like, hey, they should write better Battle Tomes with less units that feel useless or less, or I don't know, just do better. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. Skaven is the best faction GW has ever made for any of their IPs, and it's not even close. I assume you mean Skaven is the most unique faction that GW has ever made for any of its IPs. That might be true if we just change it a little bit. Did they come up with this? Can we actually say that? I don't know the history of it. Was there a radioactive magic rat folk kind of faction whatever year it was that Games Workshop came up with Skaven? Yeah, I know Secret of Nim and stuff like that. Watership Down, Red Wall, kind of that kind of stuff. I'm not asking if Chippendale existed as a rat person in any media ever. I'm talking about, like, in general, the concept of Skaven, kinda. Because to me, it's a very British thing. Because it harkens back to the Black Plague, in a way. And so much of basically everything else Games Workshop ever made was like clearly kind of a riff on something else. At least at the very start. And then there usually was 1 or 2 parts of it, or maybe even a big part that were pretty clever. I think green orcs, like the concept of orcs but they are green, was GW, and making them soccer hooligans was them. You know, Necrons were just Terminator, and you know, whatever their Tyranids were just Alien from the movie Alien, like complete blah blah blah, right? Like a bunch of it is just kind of based on whatever, or a little change, or a little making it over the top, but I think Skaven and Orcs are the 2 things that GW did the most brilliant stuff with, the earliest, maybe. Or like a pitch black satire of the worst aspects of humanity. Yes, that's all of 40k. And a lot of Rogue Trader. It's a lot of what Games Workshop does, yeah. And it's fun. Anyway, if you're talking about like inventive or interesting, least ripoff, something like that, least homage maybe. Sure. I won't fight you too hard. Maybe orcs. Because yeah, Tolkien kind of invented the orc. But Games Workshop made him green, I think. And the soccer hooligan thing was very unique. Chaos Warriors were cool, but yeah, but they didn't quite invent those. You know, the concept of the evil knight or the Lord Soth type character or the fallen paladin or the, you know, spiky armor guy. They're the silhouette, sure, and the big shoulder pad concept, sure, and stuff like that, but... And way back then, Space Marines were essentially Judge Dredd. Like, they were psycho cops, is what they started out being, I'm pretty sure. Before they invented a whole bunch of other shit. Actually, they're this instead. And they were taking what had worked with Chaos Warriors, and they're like, well, we'll do it in space, and we'll make the space version of Chaos Warriors. Okay, not the hottest take. Kind of agree. Not a Skaven player, but... Next. I hate Caradhran. They heighten the technology ceiling of the mortal realms massively, and they feel totally out of place amongst the other factions. If they existed in a different setting with different conditions, they'd be fine, but there's little that feels like it goes in a fantasy genre about them. This person is me when I was looking at Kroot during the reveal. We were watching the 40K reveal and they showed like 7 boxes of all sorts of different Kroot for the Tau. And the Tau were the big robot, big sleek shoot gun, good technology faction. And they kept showing just Kroot after Kroot, and then a Kroot riding a different type of Kroot. And I'm like, I would love this Abe's Odyssey, Douglas TeNaple looking ass, kind of claymation, 3-dimensional Tex Avery looking cool guys in anything but 40K. It's, to me, the tone is all wrong. And it's completely, like, it's a Guardians of the Galaxy race. It's a Oddworld looking Doug TeNaple after he finished with Earthworm Jim kind of thing, right? And so I don't hate them, and I don't even play 40Ks, so who gives a fuck what I think, but I was looking at them and I'm like, I hate them in 40K, in Tau. And so maybe that's how this person feels about Caradhran. I happen to disagree. I think Caradhran are awesome. I don't care what the technology ceiling of the mortal realms is. Lorelit. Lorelit ass concern. What's the technology level of the planet? Doesn't matter. Trying to ascribe this planet to a real world time and what had been invented yet in the real, trying to pull history into it like that fucking matters in a fantasy. Nope. To me, if they exist in the different setting, different conditions, they'd be fine, but they just don't think it fits. I happen to disagree. And if they weren't so damn short, and if they had just a few more and bigger guns, I would really like them. The balloon thing, not really for me, though. Although I really have to say, we need to stop looking at a fantasy world that's an entirely new thing and just scrubbing through the timeline of reality in real history and stopping in a certain place and saying the fantasy place exists here. And so it can't have gunpowder because then it would also have to have glass in its houses and this thing and that thing and this thing and that thing. Stop doing that. It limits you. You don't have to care about that. The conditions of what happened to happen during real history don't have to have happened here. And I'm not doing the oh but magic thing. That's actually a little bit of a cop-out usually, I would say, the magic thing. They would just be Space Marines then? How do you figure? I mean, if you zoom out 100,000 feet above the Earth and squint, they would be guys in some sort of bulky armor with guns. But, I mean, that's a little oversimplified, maybe. Why can COS have guns but KO can't? Well, okay, there's a big difference between having guns, having matchlock, flint, cannons, normal pistols, repeaters, crossbows, and like floating sky cities and sky aircraft carriers that even we can't quite manage yet. Because magic space god breath, you know? I don't know. It's all over the place. It's kind of all over the place. Space Marines can spit acid out of their mouths. That's stupid. I'm sorry. That's dumb. Zeppelin capitalists. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I love their adherence to the different, I think that's actually a very clever and cool rules thing, where you're writing your own constitution and putting footnotes into it and adding loopholes. I think that's really clever and fun. You don't get this? Crowd and overlords are explicitly the opposite of punk. Oh, yeah, so steampunk and cyberpunk and stuff, it's purely talking about aesthetics. It has nothing to do with actual punk. For essentially both of those things. Cyberpunk started maybe a little bit punk, kinda, but it surely essentially has nothing to do with it now. What about NASA punk? True Starfield. You can have rules loopholes because they have a rules lawyer as a model, and he's awesome. He's awesome. Also, the aesthetic of NASA punk is the coolest part of Starfield. It's the only interesting part. I said it. We've listened to a lot of lore channels. Well, actually not a lot. It's hard to find any actual lore in there because they didn't put too much in the actual game. They blew up the Magnus. That's right. They invented grav drives. And they didn't notice that the magnosphere of the Earth was being damaged. Which is crazy because we can notice that today, but they couldn't in the future for some reason, until it was entirely destroyed. And the Earth was ruined. But they somehow evacuated everyone from Earth, while pretending that it was kind of realistic, which is impossible, even in the future. And then 10 years later, as a side note, they just fixed it so that it doesn't affect magnospheres anymore. And they were given the technology by themselves who went back in time and gave it to them. They couldn't have gave them the updated patch that didn't blow up the Earth. God damn, Starfield is so... The lore is so bad for that game. Anyway, pardon me. Old man yelling at Cloud, yeah. About the definition of punk shifting to mean looks cool. My hottest take this evening will be that's all punk ever was.